Abundance is not something distant, waiting for you at the end of endless striving. It is not locked behind gates of permission, nor rationed out to the worthy few. Abundance is the fabric of life itself, woven into the breath you just took, alive in the rhythm of your heartbeat, present in the fact that the sun has never once forgotten to rise. And yet, for so many, this truth feels hidden. Scarcity has been rehearsed louder than sufficiency. We've been trained to measure ourselves against standards that never fit, to see lack in the mirror where fullness already lives. This audiobook is not about teaching you tricks to earn abundance, nor about convincing the universe to notice you. It is about remembering what has always been true. You do not ask for abundance, you command it. But let's be clear, command is not arrogance. Command is not noise or force. It is not stomping your feet at life, demanding more. Command is remembrance, returning to yourself, standing once again in the posture of Source, where abundance is not chased but emanated. Here, you will not find lectures of perfection, but invitations to shift perspective. You will be asked to breathe differently, to think differently, to see yourself differently, to let your nervous system loosen from its grip on survival and recalibrate to the rhythm of overflow. Along the way, I will pause to invite you to engage, to comment, to affirm, to declare aloud truths that your being already knows. Because transformation is not passive listening. It is an embodied agreement. So as you listen, lean in with openness. Let the words wash not only through your mind, but through your body. Because the body remembers what the mind forgets. And if you allow it, this remembrance will awaken something in you that no scarcity can silence. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The nature of abundance. Abundance has always been here, moving silently through the fabric of existence like an invisible current. Yet for most of us, the word has been reduced, shrunken down to material outcomes. Money in the bank, houses, possessions, external proof. And while those may be expressions of abundance, they are not its essence. The essence of abundance is not found in numbers. It is found in flow. It is the steady rhythm of life itself. A rhythm you are already inside of, even when you forget. Look around. The tree outside does not hoard its leaves in case next season is stingy. The sun does not ration out its warmth as if there were ever a risk of shortage. Rivers do not apologize as they rush toward the sea. Life does not behave as though supply is fragile. It flows, it renews, it multiplies. And you, as part of this life, are woven from the same law. The confusion begins when we are trained to see abundance through scarcity's lens. We are told to chase it, to earn it, to compare what we have against what others hold. We are told that if our accounts don't look a certain way, if our homes don't shine with a certain image, if our recognition is not loud enough, then we are lacking. But true abundance has never been about accumulation. It is about alignment. Alignment with the field that never runs dry. Alignment with the knowing that says, I am already inside provision. I am already carried by flow. Think back to the moments when you felt most alive. Laughter that shook the air, a sunset that drenched the sky in fire, a silence so deep it wrapped you in belonging. None of those required wealth or title, and yet each was saturated with abundance. This is the overlooked truth. Abundance begins not with gain, but with sight. When you see what already surrounds you, the lens of scarcity loosens its grip. Gratitude becomes not a forced ritual, but a natural response. And gratitude itself expands the flow. not because it manipulates the universe, but because it removes the veil that made you think you were separate from it. But let's be honest, many of us carry the imprint of lack. We inherited stories of not enough. We were told resources are scarce, life is competition, that someone else's gain threatens ours. So we cling. We ration joy. We guard our giving. We grip so tightly that the very flow we crave cannot reach us. Scarcity is not the absence of resources. It is the contraction of heart and mind against the truth of flow. Imagine holding your breath out of fear that the air will run out. The suffocation you feel would not come from lack of oxygen, but from your refusal to receive. Abundance is the same. When you grip, when you mistrust, when you wait for proof before you breathe, you cut yourself off from what was already here. To return to abundance, you do not need ritual of exhaustion. You do not need to chant until your throat aches. You do not need to bargain with life, as if life were a stingy parent. You need willingness. Willingness to soften. Willingness to notice. Willingness to breathe again. Because abundance is not just around you. It is within you. The ideas that spark when you least expect them. The creativity that pours out when you finally allow silence. The resilience that rises in moments of trial. These are not accidents. They are expressions of inner abundance. The more you give from them, the more they replenish. That is the paradox of true flow. The more it is expressed, the more it expands. When you align with this truth, life feels less like a grind and more like a dance. You stop forcing outcomes, and instead, you move with the rhythm that already supports you. Doors open where walls once blocked you. Opportunities gather where you once saw drought. Even in challenges, you feel the undercurrent. A quiet assurance that says, this is not the end, because life itself cannot run dry. And this is where a shift must happen. You cannot simply admire the idea of abundance, you must live it. That means noticing the subtle ways scarcity creeps into your speech. The phrases of, I can't afford, there isn't enough, I'll never have. Each of those words reinforces a story that keeps you outside the flow. Begin to listen to yourself. Begin to replace the language of lack with the language of sufficiency. Not pretending, not lying to yourself, but training your tongue to agree with truth. You may not see millions in your account today. You may not own the home you dream of, but you can still declare, I live in the flow of enough. Provision meets me here. Life sustains me now. That shift in language is not cosmetic. It reconditions your nervous system to trust instead of fear. Here's a practice. At the end of each day, pause and name 5 ways abundance showed itself. It could be a meal you enjoyed, a stranger's kindness, a moment of laughter, an idea that inspired you, even the strength to endure a difficult situation. These are not small things. They are proof of flow. The more you name them, the more your sight clears. And as your sight clears, you align with more, because alignment always precedes increase. When you recognize abundance, it multiplies. Not because you begged harder, but because your energy shifted from gripping to opening. This first chapter is not about techniques, it is about sight. Before you practice new habits, you must loosen the grip of the old story, the story that life is stingy, limited, untrustworthy. Once that veil lifts, you stop trying to squeeze water from stones. Instead, you open your palms to the rain. So I ask you, where have you confused abundance with accumulation? Where have you overlooked the quiet flow that already sustains you? And most importantly, where can you exhale, releasing the fear of running out and allowing yourself to remember that you are enough and that life itself is enough? This is the threshold. Step through it. Abundance was never distant. It was never waiting on conditions. It has always been here, woven into your breath, waiting for your agreement. Chapter 2. Returning to yourself. Returning to yourself is not a dramatic event. It is a series of quiet choices that realign your inner compass with what has always been true. It is the undoing of noise. It is the moment you stop outsourcing your power to opinions, numbers, and timelines, and you begin living from the field within you that does not waver. Most people try to fix their life from the outside in. They rearrange schedules, add more tasks, download more systems, and then wonder why the old tension returns. You can change the furniture of a room 100 times, but if the floor is tilted, the water in every glass will still lean. Returning to yourself is leveling the floor. Once the foundation is steady, your life stops sliding. Begin with breath. Not the shallow breath that keeps the nervous system in a loop of threat, but the kind that reminds the body it is safe to expand. 3 slow inhales through the nose, 3 longer exhales through the mouth. On the inhale, imagine collecting yourself from the places you scattered throughout the day. On the exhale, release the stories that never belonged to you. This is not a performance. It is a reset. The body listens. When the body believes you, the mind becomes easier to guide. Next, reclaim your attention. Attention is currency. Wherever you place it grows. In a world engineered to farm your focus, returning to yourself means choosing again and again where your gaze rests. Ask, what am I feeding? Am I rehearsing proof of lack or evidence of flow? This single question changes outcomes. When you feed proof of flow, your brain begins to model it. You start noticing patterns of support you used to miss. Opportunity often looks ordinary at first. Only a trained gaze recognizes it. Returning to yourself is also the end of performing for approval. Scarcity trains you to audition for belonging, polishing edges, hiding needs, over-delivering, apologizing for your size. But approval is a moving target, and chasing it keeps the nervous system braced. When you return to yourself, you shift the question from, do they accept me, to am I aligned with me? Alignment is not ego. Alignment is accuracy. It is the truth that when your inner and outer life match, energy stops leaking. The yes you give yourself is the permission slip that organizes the rest. There is a practical way to do this. Set your standards in language your body can feel. I move with calm precision. I respond. I don't react. My money decisions come from clarity, not from fear. Speak them aloud in the tone you want to live in. Steady, grounded, sure. Tone matters. You are teaching your nervous system what home sounds like. Your environment should echo these decisions. The apps on your phone, the first sounds you let into your morning, the people whose voices shape your self-talk. All of these are levers. Replace inputs that spike cortisol with inputs that strengthen command. If you can't change a context, change your behavior within it. A single boundary, no doom scrolling before movement, no money decisions after midnight, no yes given on the spot, reclaims more power than a dozen motivational quotes. Boundaries are not walls, they are channels. They keep your river flowing. The mind will argue. It will tell you that returning to yourself is indulgent, that certainty requires proof, that safety is found in control. But control is the costume of fear. Command does not strangle outcomes. It chooses a direction and moves. Returning to yourself means trusting your pace. The culture worships rush. Abundance honors rhythm. Rhythm lets ideas ripen, relationships breathe, and money circulate without panic. You stop sprinting after what is already moving toward you. There is a myth that you must feel abundant before you act. Waiting for the perfect feeling keeps you frozen. Action is often the door that lets the feeling in. Send the email calmly. Make the call from clarity. Ask for the rate that respects your work, not with aggression. Aggression is the mask scarcity wears when it's afraid to be still, but with an unshakable tone. Quiet power rearranges rooms. Returning to yourself transforms your relationship with money. Instead of treating money as a judge, you treat it as a messenger. What is it revealing about your patterns? Are you spending to regulate anxiety? Are you undercharging to buy approval? Are you hoarding because you don't trust replenishment? None of these require shame. They require seeing. Once seen, patterns lose their grip. You begin to choose for the present you, not the past you who learned to survive. Try this practice for the next week. Before any money decision, pause and ask, what energy is making this choice? Fear or flow? If fear, breathe 3 times and delay the decision by an hour. Most impulses dissolve with oxygen and time. If flow, act cleanly. Clean action has no aftertaste. It does not require a story to justify itself. It closes loops. The more clean decisions you make, the more your life feels like completed sentences instead of half-finished thoughts. Returning to yourself also changes how you meet triggers. Triggers are invitations. They point to rooms inside you that need air. When envy rises, do not scold yourself. Decode it. Envy often points toward a desire you have disowned. Someone else's success touches a blueprint in you asking for light. Instead of shrinking, translate the signal. This is for me too. Then take one concrete step toward that direction. Research the skill, book the call, block the time. Desire is not a fault. Unmet desire ferments into bitterness. Claimed desire turns into motion. The body keeps record. It remembers seasons when you overrode your needs to keep peace, when you stayed silent to stay liked, when you kept the price low to be chosen. Returning to yourself includes re-educating the body that it is safe to be clear. Begin in low-stakes settings. Decline a small request politely. Practice asking for a little extra time on a deadline. Request a small deadline extension. Practice receiving compliments without disclaimers. Every tiny rep is a vote for the identity you are building. Identity is not declared once. It is built like muscle, through reps. Notice how your day begins. Mornings write nervous systems. The first hour is a hinge. It decides how your door swings. Do not hand it to noise. Enter it with 3 anchors. Movement to wake the body, words to set. Your direction, and 1 needle-moving action before you check what the world wants from you. 10 minutes can flip an entire day. Power hides in simple things done consistently. Returning to yourself dissolves the fantasy that a future version of you will arrive and rescue the present one. Rescue is not coming, but you are here and you are sufficient. Meet the day you have. Make 1 honest request. Give 1 generous response. Ship 1 imperfect thing. Pay 1 bill with gratitude. Save 1 amount with ceremony. Call 1 person with presence. These are not small. They are a compound interest in your becoming. You will feel resistance. Resistance is the mind protecting the old map. Thank it, then keep walking. You are not erasing your past. You are updating your coordinates. Even grief can travel with you without steering. Let it sit in the passenger seat while you drive. Returning to yourself is not a mood you hold. It is a direction you choose repeatedly. Notice the shift in your language as you practice. I hope becomes I intend. Someday becomes dates on a calendar. If it's meant for me becomes I am meeting what is meant for me and I am available now. Language is a steering wheel. It turns you before it turns outcomes. Speak as the person who lives inside the flow, not as the one who is forever trying to qualify for it. Relationships recalibrate as you return to yourself. Some will deepen because clarity clarifies love. Some will fade because they were built on your self-abandonment. Release them gently. Nature prunes to bloom. You are allowed to grow beyond rooms that prefer your smaller version. You are not unkind for protecting the ecosystem of your peace. Your peace is not a luxury item. It is infrastructure. Without it, everything wobbles. As you keep choosing, a new baseline emerges. You notice that you no longer waken to dread. Your body stops bracing for the next problem. Your pace becomes deliberate. You check your accounts without flinching. You speak fees without rehearsing apologies. You plan from vision rather than from panic. This is not luck. This is the mathematics of alignment. And then something subtle happens. You start trusting your timing. You stop rushing to catch a train you were never meant to board. You recognize detours as craftsmanship. The delay that teaches skill is not a denial. The pause that reveals a better door is not a punishment. When you return to yourself, time stops being an enemy and becomes a collaborator. Doors and days begin to coordinate with you. If your hands are free, speak this once, steady and low. I return to myself. I choose accuracy over performance. I choose rhythm over rush. I choose command over control. I am seated in the center of my life, and from this center I move. Do not wait for the world to applaud this choice. Applause is delightful and unnecessary. The proof will be in your ease, in the way your body stops arguing with your life, in the way opportunities begin to feel like recognition rather than rescue, in the way money stops feeling like a verdict and becomes a tool, in the way you stop apologizing for doors you are designed to walk through. Returning to yourself is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning. It is the place from which you will decide, create, ask, receive, circulate, and expand. You will still have weather. You will still have days where doubt knocks, but you will have a home to return to, a floor that doesn't tilt, a center that does not collapse, and from that center you command, not with volume, but with presence. This is the work and the reward, to live from the inside out, to let your life be an echo of your alignment, and to remember that the field you thought you were chasing is the ground beneath your feet. Chapter 3. Living the Flow. To live in abundance is not to sit quietly, imagining wealth in some distant future. It is to walk through life as if the river of supply is already carrying you. Living the flow means embodying abundance in the smallest choices, the ordinary rhythms, the unnoticed habits that shape your days. Scarcity wants you to think abundance is an event, a miracle deposit, a sudden breakthrough, a dramatic change that proves everything has shifted. But true abundance is not about rare fireworks. It is about the steady hum of overflow weaving into your daily life until it becomes natural. Living the flow begins with presence. When you wake in the morning, notice the first thoughts that arrive. Are they rehearsals of lack? Are they worries about what could go wrong, what might run out, what hasn't yet come? That is the nervous system conditioned in scarcity, but you can redirect even here. Pause. Breathe. Let the very act of waking be proof of abundance. The air is still here. Life has chosen you again. Provision begins with breath. As you rise, notice the movements of your body. Scarcity will have you rushing, already behind, already competing. Flow invites slowness, not laziness, but calm, a different rhythm. Instead of being dragged by the current of fear, you align with the current of sufficiency. Even brushing your teeth, drinking water, or opening a window becomes a quiet declaration. I am already sustained. Living the flow also means re-educating your language. Listen to how you speak about your circumstances. Do you complain before you consider? Do you declare a shortage before you search for options? Every sentence carries energy. Scarcity speaks in the language of not enough. Flow speaks in the language of already here. Begin to catch yourself. Change the script. Instead of saying, I can't afford this, experiment with, I choose differently right now. Instead of saying, nothing ever works out, try, life is aligning me toward what does work. These shifts sound small, but they reshape the energy of your nervous system. Money especially reveals whether you are living in flow. Scarcity trains you to check your accounts in dread, to view every purchase as loss, to fear every bill as threat. But what if even this could change? What if, instead of fear-checking, you check with command? You don't open your account to confirm the lack. You open it to witness supply bending toward you. The numbers may not be massive yet, but the field does not respond to numbers. It responds to energy. If your energy says overflow, the numbers will align in time. Living the flow requires practicing generosity without fear. Scarcity clutches, hoards, and hesitates. Abundance circulates. You don't give recklessly, but you give with trust that what flows out flows back. Every act of generosity, whether it is money, kindness, attention, or encouragement, becomes a rehearsal of overflow. You are telling your nervous system, I am not empty, I am overflowing, and overflow multiplies. Relationships too become a canvas for flow. Scarcity convinces you to compete, to control, to clutch people tightly out of fear of abandonment. Flow trusts, flow listens, flow gives space. Flow reminds you that love is not scarce. That connection is not rationed. You don't have to cling to crumbs when you are capable of hosting banquets. Living the flow in relationships means you attract from fullness rather than chase from hunger. Even in work, flow shows itself. Scarcity makes you work as though the world might collapse if you pause. It drives you into burnout, convincing you that exhaustion is proof of worth. But flow teaches another way. Flow says, work from inspiration, not desperation. Align first, then act. Rest is not the opposite of productivity. It is the soil that allows productivity to bear fruit. A rested body creates more than a frantic one ever could. And this truth must be embodied in the nervous system, not just the mind. Because the body carries memory. If you've lived years rehearsing stress, panic, and fear, your nervous system is trained to expect collapse. That's why, even when provision arrives, you still feel anxious. You've memorized fear. But living the flow is retraining. It is letting the body rehearse peace until peace feels normal again. It is breathing deeply when you want to panic. It is noticing support instead of scanning for danger. It is choosing ease until ease becomes the nervous system's new language. One practice is to treat every meal as a feast of abundance, even if simple. Scarcity eats with rush, with fear of not enough, with distraction. Flow eats with gratitude, with savoring, with attention. Notice the textures, the flavors, the miracle that something has come to your plate. This is not about luxury food. It is about presence. Even the most ordinary meal, when received in flow, becomes proof of supply. Another practice is walking. Scarcity walks hurried, hunched, scanning the ground. Flow walks upright, aware, steady. Next time you walk, to work, to the store, through your neighborhood, walk as though the earth recognizes you. Walk as though provision trails behind you, waiting to meet every step. That shift in gait is not performance. It is a command embodied. And perhaps the most important practice, resting in trust. Scarcity never rests. Even when the body sleeps, the mind races. Flow rests deeply, because it knows life does not collapse when you release control. Try this. When you lie down at night, instead of reviewing worries, name 3 ways you were carried today. Small or large, list them. Let your body fall asleep inside sufficiency. Over time, the nervous system learns that rest is safe, that supply continues even when you release effort. Living the flow is not a one-time choice. It is a rehearsal, repetition, daily reminders until the body and mind shift from panic to presence. You may stumble. You may catch yourself clutching or fearing again. That's not failure. That's conditioning unwinding. Each time you return to flow, the groove deepens. Each time you choose trust, the river clears. And this shift changes not only your inner life, but your outer results. People notice. Opportunities open. Provision arranges itself in ways you couldn't have orchestrated. Not because you forced it, but because your energy now hums with abundance, and reality mirrors what you embody. So the invitation is simple but profound. Stop waiting for abundance to arrive like a visitor. Begin living as if you are already inside it. Because you are. Stop rationing joy. Stop clutching love. Stop calculating every coin as though it might be your last. Live as one carried by a river that never runs dry. And to anchor this truth, pause with me now. Take a breath. Comment below if you choose. I live in the flow of abundance. Not tomorrow. Not one day. Now, because when you decree it, your body begins to believe it. And when the body believes, the field responds. This is living the flow, not theory, but embodiment. Not waiting, but walking. Not asking, but commanding. And when you live the flow, life cannot help but bow. Chapter 4. Expanding your capacity. Abundance does not just arrive at the measure you currently hold. It expands to the size of the vessel you offer it. Too often, people believe they are waiting for more provision, when in truth, provision is waiting for them to stretch. A small cup cannot contain a river. A clenched hand cannot receive a gift. The field of abundance does not withhold. It mirrors capacity. Capacity is not about worthiness. It is not about whether you deserve more. It is about whether you can host more without collapsing, without fear, without leaking what has been entrusted to you. Many people sabotage abundance not because it was absent, but because they could not carry it when it arrived. They received opportunities, but doubted themselves. They encountered an increase, but clung to scarcity. They asked for expansion, but continued to think in fragments. To expand your capacity is to recondition your entire being, mind, body, and spirit. To live in greater flow without shrinking back. It is to become a vessel large enough, steady enough, open enough to carry what already belongs to you. The process begins within. Scarcity shrinks the nervous system, teaching the body to anticipate collapse. That is why, when sudden provision arrives, a new job, a financial windfall, an unexpected door, many people panic instead of rejoicing. The nervous system does not know how to dwell in increase. It expects loss. It rehearses disasters. But you are not here to repeat the cycles of collapse. You are here to expand. Expansion is not reckless. It is rhythmic. It is the steady stretching of your inner world so that more can move through you. How do you expand? You begin with small embodied practices. When money arrives, instead of clutching it in fear, breathe. Place your hand over it. Speak to it with gratitude. Tell your body, it is safe to receive. When opportunities arise, notice the temptation to self-sabotage, to dismiss yourself, to delay, to retreat. In that moment, pause. Remind yourself, I am built for this. Slowly, these practices create new grooves in your system, grooves of trust, grooves of stability. And what you stabilize, you multiply. Expansion also asks you to challenge the ceilings you've accepted. Ceilings that tell you how much is reasonable for someone like you to earn, to create, to hold. Ceilings inherited from family patterns, cultural scripts, old voices that rehearse limitations. To expand is to meet those ceilings with gentle defiance. You do not break them in anger. You rise through them with remembrance. Each time you say yes to more than fear, told you was possible, you stretch your vessel. Each time you refuse to shrink, you expand capacity. Abundance flows at the measure of your openness. Think of a musician learning a new instrument. At first, their hands tremble. The notes are awkward. But with time, practice, and persistence, the capacity increases. They are not a different person than they were when they began. They are the same, but expanded. Likewise, when you live with abundance, you are not chasing a new identity. You are becoming more of what you already are. Expansion is remembering your original design, one built not for survival alone, but for overflow. This expansion also carries responsibility. Scarcity hoards, but abundance circulates. To host greater flow is not only for personal comfort, but for collective uplift. When you expand your capacity, you become a vessel through which others are blessed. Your overflow feeds families, inspires communities, and creates opportunities. Expansion is never selfish. It is service. Not the draining kind of service that depletes, but the natural outpouring of someone who cannot help but spill because they are so filled. But hear this clearly. Expansion does not mean constant growth without rest. It is not a frantic sprint to more, more, more. True expansion honors rhythm. There are seasons of stretching and seasons of stillness, times to build and times to breathe. Capacity grows in cycles. Just as muscles expand not only through lifting but also through rest, so your life expands through balance. To deny rest is to sabotage growth. To honor rhythm is to secure it. There will be resistance. Old patterns will whisper, "This is too much." Fear will tell you to shrink. Doubt will say, "Better stay small. It is safer there." But the truth is, safety is not found in shrinking. Safety is found in source. And source is never stingy. Every time you expand, you prove to your body and your mind that overflow is natural, that provision is steady, that the field bends to your willingness to hold more. Practical expansion looks different for everyone. For some, it means saying yes to opportunities that stretch their skill. For others, it is finally allowing themselves to invest, to save, to give generously. For others still, it is expanding relationally, opening to deeper connections, allowing more love, more trust, more support. Whatever your doorway, the principle remains the same. You cannot cling to the old vessel and expect a new river to pour. You must stretch. Expansion is also mental. Pay attention to the conversations you allow. Do they reinforce smallness, or do they stretch vision? Surround yourself with voices that remind you of possibility, not voices that echo scarcity. Expansion requires a new environment, because a vessel placed in drought will always feel fragile. Place yourself where flow is visible, and your system will begin to align with it. Expanding capacity also touches time. Scarcity says, "You don't have enough hours." It drives you into frantic rushing, but abundance says, "Time bends to alignment." To expand capacity is to shift your relationship with time itself, to move from rushing into rhythm, from panic into trust. When you embody this shift, the hours you have begin to feel wider, deeper, fuller. You accomplish more, not because you force it, but because your energy aligns with flow. It touches relationships too. Scarcity makes you settle for crumbs of affection, tolerating dynamics that drain you. Expanding capacity means opening to deeper love, trusting that healthy connection will not collapse you. It is the courage to receive, not in desperation, but in wholeness. As you hold more love, you mirror to others that love is abundant, not scarce. Expansion also touches generosity. Scarcity whispers, "If you give, you will have less." Abundance shows, when you circulate, you multiply. Expanding capacity is learning to give without fear and receive without guilt. It is stepping into the rhythm of circulation, where wealth is not stagnant but alive, moving through your hands and into the world, returning multiplied. As you expand, notice how life responds. Where you once felt fragile, you now feel steady. Where you once feared loss, you now expect an increase. Where you once shrank from opportunity, you now open to it with readiness. This is the fruit of expansion. Not just having more, but being more. A vessel no longer trembling, but secure in its capacity. And so, I invite you to declare, "I am expanding my capacity. I am safe to hold more. I am safe to circulate more. I am safe to live in greater flow." As you declare this, feel it in your body. Let your breath deepen. Let your shoulders ease. Let your chest expand. This is not wishful thinking. This is a rehearsal, and rehearsal becomes reality. Expanding your capacity is not about someday. It is about now. Each breath is an expansion. Each decision is an expansion. Each act of trust is an expansion. And as you expand, abundance cannot help but meet you, because it has been waiting all along for a vessel strong enough, open enough, willing enough to host what has always been yours. Chapter 5. Walking as Abundance. Walking as abundance means carrying the atmosphere of sufficiency wherever you go. It is not a posture of trying or rehearsing. It is simply who you are when scarcity's grip has dissolved. Imagine beginning your day without the low hum of anxiety, without the weight of calculating, without the tension of waiting for the other shoe to drop. Instead, you rise with a calm. Awareness that supply bends toward you because it recognizes you. Your very presence is enough. Your very being is provision. Walking as abundance shows itself in small ways first. The way you move through a store, no longer calculating what you cannot have, but scanning instead for what aligns with your desire. The way you sit at a table no longer hoping to be included, but knowing that your presence is contribution. The way you look at your account, not in fear, but in certainty that flow replenishes itself. These may appear like subtle shifts, but they rewrite your nervous system. Each act becomes a rehearsal of sovereignty, each choice a confirmation that lack no longer writes your script. Over time, the atmosphere around you begins to change. People notice without knowing why. Opportunities open without you forcing them. Doors swing with ease because the field around you hums with sufficiency. You are no longer signaling scarcity, you are radiating abundance. And abundance is magnetic. It does not beg for attention, but it draws everything that resonates with its frequency. This does not mean you will never face challenge. Life will still bring seasons of pruning, redirection, and growth. But the difference is that challenge no longer unseats you. You do not collapse into panic. You stand rooted, knowing that abundance does not evaporate under pressure. In fact, pressure often reveals how unshakable it truly is. You find yourself calmer where you used to tremble, steady where you used to scatter. Scarcity trained you to fear loss. Abundance trains you to see circulation. What seems to leave is only making room for what is greater to arrive. To walk as abundance also means generosity becomes natural. Not the generosity born of guilt or obligation, but the generosity of overflow. You give because you are full. You release because you trust the river. And in that circulation, you experience more joy than clinging ever gave you. Scarcity convinces you to hold tightly. Abundance invites you to open your hands. And when your hands are open, they are always filled again. Walking as abundance changes your relationships too. You no longer enter them searching for validation or fearing rejection. You no longer settle for crumbs, believing love is scarce. Instead, you attract people who mirror your wholeness, who walk in overflow themselves. Conversations deepen, connections flourish, and your presence becomes a safe place for others to breathe. Without trying, you give them permission to step out of scarcity as well. Everyday practices anchor this way of being. When you pause at the end of the day and notice the small proofs of abundance, a meal that nourished you, laughter that lifted you, rest that restored you, you strengthen the muscle of recognition. When you speak words that align with sufficiency rather than lack, you recondition your body's response. When you allow yourself to rest without guilt, to breathe without rushing, to choose without fear, you declare to life itself, I walk as abundance. The more you embody this, the less you need to prove. Even your silence begins to carry weight. Even your stillness bends reality. This is the quiet authority of one who knows they are source embodied. And when you walk in this authority, you do not need to shout or convince. Life bends naturally, because life always bends to truth. So as you listen now, I invite you to make it practical. Reflect on the steps of your day, the way you move through work, the way you interact with money, the way you rest, the way you love. Where can you shift from seeking to embodying? Where can you replace hesitation with trust? Where can you walk as though supply is already surrounding you because it is? Pause and declare it aloud, if you can. I walk as abundance. My presence is provision. My life is overflowing. Supply recognizes me and bends toward me now. Carry this not as a mantra to recite in fear, but as the natural song of your being. The more you align with it, the more you realize you do not ask for abundance. You never needed to. You embody it. You emanate it. And when you walk clothed in abundance, life itself cannot help but rise to meet you. And so, as you walk forward, remember this truth. You do not chase abundance, you embody it. You do not beg for provision, you radiate it. Every breath, every choice, every step becomes proof of who you already are, the living presence of overflow. If these words have stirred something in you, I'd love to hear it. Comment below with the affirmation, I walk as abundance. And if you wish to continue receiving transmissions like this, consider subscribing to the channel. Your presence here matters, and together we expand the atmosphere of sufficiency for all who listen.